Today, we are continuing to monitor the collapse of the UK as Rupert Lowe presents some of the testimonies from his rape gang inquiry, and Starmer blames Elon Musk for the division Henry Novak's murder is creating in the country. Because that makes sense. In the US, Mom Donnie appointed a new sheriff to New York City who believes that NYPD is systemically racist towards Black people. And Democrats in New York have passed a bill changing terms such as mother and father to gestating parent and non-gestating parent. I wish I were kidding. All that and more on DayeTime. I am your host, Avery Daye. The UK grooming gang scandal has been going on for years, where women and children, decades, where women and children have been mass raped by men predominantly of Pakistani origin, and they target the victims because they're white. The government has covered it up, and many of the victims have not seen justice because the government doesn't want to be called racist. Rupert Lowe launched a privately funded inquiry to gather testimonies, gather evidence, push for accountability, and give survivors a voice and say, hey, someone is listening, someone cares, we're trying to do something after all these years of letting it go and covering it up. So the rape gang inquiry held public hearings in February 2026 for about 2 weeks. And then in early June, Rupert Lowe read some of the testimonies from the inquiry in Parliament, and it's really tough to listen to, but I think it's important that we do listen to it. He posted on X, I want the world to hear what we heard.
Firstly, I would like to thank the 260,974 British men and women who signed the petition to make this debate possible, and I want to welcome these brave survivors who are sitting behind us in the hall. This debate is about them. As you quite rightly say, it's not about politics. I want the world to hear what we heard during the 2 weeks of our independent rape gang inquiry hearings, an inquiry that should never have needed to happen. I sincerely urge this Parliament to listen to the testimonies from these brave survivors and to act, to finally act. So the first testimony: he took his pants down, penetrated me, had sex with me. He then stopped before ejaculation. He picked up the bottle of Jack Daniels, which was now empty, and he forced it up inside me. He broke the glass while he was there. At that point, I was about 12, nearly 13. Another testimony: I was held down by the men as they each took turns to orally and vaginally rape me, taking it in turns to pin down my arms and my legs. When the assault ended, the men hit me repeatedly, threatened to find me, kill me, and harmed my loved ones if I ever told anybody what had happened. Another: comments were constantly made suggesting that white girls, the Christian girls, were viewed as having fewer morals or lower values, whereas Muslim girls were described by some of the men as having dignity and higher moral standing. These comparisons were used to justify the way I was treated and to further humiliate and control me. Another: she was a white woman herself, who I imagine may have been groomed, and has obviously now married into the family, shouting obscenities at us. Throughout the whole sentencing, she was constantly saying, fucking liars, lying white bitches. She said to me that God will be the witness for what happens to me. Another: race did play a part and motivated the selection or demographic of the victims. Throughout my exploitation, the other girls I encountered, or who were abused alongside me, were almost exclusively white. Another: she had a baby by him, and his dad was an imam. His dad knew. And he got his son married and said that he wasn't allowed to see the child. They look after their own community. Another: over the course of the abuse, I was raped by multiple police officers in different parts of the country. Another, he put a cigarette out on the baby's face. Another, it started when I was 13. I was raped by probably about 600 or 700 different men over 3 years. Another, they would toot the horn of the car and then a child would be taken to the front door by a staff member of the children's home. Another, I was bleeding from both my vagina and my back passage and was so swollen I could not sit down. I told hospital staff my drink had been spiked and I did not know what had happened because I was too afraid to tell the truth. They did not ask any questions. They gave me tablets and discharged me. I was 15 years old. Another, things would escalate around Eid and holidays. Parties got bigger, got worse, got more violent. More people involved, more girls involved. The parties were just bigger. Another, the main clash that I kind of had with the religion side of it was I grew up as a Christian. I would wear my cross because it was something really special to me. It was just used as a way to break me down. They said, "Where is your God now? Has your God forsaken you?" Another, it was all of the white girls in every home that I went to. I remember a man opening the back of a van and I saw 15, 20 girls locked in dog cages. Another, dogs were brought in and I couldn't move at all. I had nowhere to move. I think that was the scariest thing, was not having any concept of it. There were men around me, not horrified, not disgusted, not helping, but filming and laughing, making bets on whether the dog could actually rape me or not. And yes, I was raped by a dog. The man just held my face, stared me down straight in the eyes, and he wanted to see me break, and he did. Another, I just want it to stop and not happen to any other children, and for people to actually act, to do something and stop being so scared. I could continue for hours and hours. All of us in this building have a responsibility to finally act. Not to talk, but to act. Our Rape Gang Inquiry report will be released in the coming days. It will change Britain for good. Thank you.
This is a tiny snippet of what has happened. There are hundreds of thousands of victims across Europe raped for being white. And the government covered it up, and they're telling the people that talk about it, they're calling them racist. Actually, to be more specific, they're calling them terrorists. Because in the UK, under the Labour government, Starmer's leadership, you're considered a terrorist if you hold the belief that Western culture is under threat from mass migration and lack of integration by certain ethnic and cultural groups. So if you talk about the truth, you're a terrorist, per the government's own guidelines. Yeah, let's let in Mohammed, who has known ties to Al-Qaeda. Come on in. The taxpayer will pay for your stay, pay for you to have 8 kids who don't assimilate and only hang out with other aspiring terrorists from the same countries, creating a subculture of jihad. But it's me who's the terrorist. It's Eva who's banned from entering the UK. It's Tommy Robinson who went to prison. And then, of course, Henry Novak's murder is all over the news because it's awful. And the leaders aren't happy that the world knows the truth about what's happening in the UK. Starmer actually blames Elon Musk for creating the division.
We need to also assert who we are as a country, because Musk, again, has been interfering in our politics in the last few days, trying to whip up division. That is not who we are in Britain.
I hate that.
In Britain, we are reasonable, tolerant people. When we have a terrible case like Henry's case, Henry Novak, we react calmly, as his family have done. When it comes to disgusting images on Grok, we take Grok on and fight, because that's who we are as a country.
Soft beta wanker. Starmer cares more about the collapse of his political ideology than the consequences of it. He is mad Elon has amplified the truth about what's been happening in the UK. He wanted to get away with the cover-up, because never forget, Keir Starmer was head of the Crown Prosecution Service from 2008 to 2013, which was during the height of the rape gangs. And he dismissed the victims and aided in the cover-up of these grooming gangs. Again, because he was more worried about racism than protecting his citizens. And now he wants to point the finger at Elon Musk instead of facing the realities his leftist policies created, all for votes and power. Don't show the public the truth. Call them racist if they talk about it, because the only way to stay in power is to lie and convince the native population that they must tolerate everything and everyone. And then anyone who doesn't tolerate it is insert whatever bad name here, Nazi, fascist, bigot, racist, whatever. It's why Starmer wants to ban X in the UK. He knows the lies he and these leftist governments have been peddling will be the end of their power if the truth comes to light, if people get access to real news. He wants to blame Elon. Yeah, that's convenient. If it wasn't for Elon buying X, the world wouldn't know about the UK's mass cover-up and Starmer's involvement in it. He wouldn't be able to talk freely about it. Starmer likes to call everything dangerous speech. Leftist governments love hate speech. You think Elon doesn't understand the consequences of people calling him a Nazi and a fascist, but he allows it freely on his platform, despite the fact that it's peddling an extremely dangerous narrative surrounding his name. And he has to basically have a private military to stay alive, just to stay alive and fight for the truth. You think Charlie Kirk doesn't understand hate speech? Oh, wait, Charlie can't weigh in here because he was killed by a bullet from a furry that said, "Hey, fascist, catch," because of leftist propaganda. But he still fought for people's right to call him a fascist. As someone who spent years living in England recently, I can tell you what Elon brings to light about the grooming gangs, the open borders, the racism towards white people, safety. Everything he talks about, it's not even a fraction of the realities of living through it. So from the bottom of my heart, from every bone in my body, fuck you, Keir Starmer. And thank you, Elon, for saving free speech in the West. If you think this can't happen to America, you're mistaken. Let's take a look at New York City. In late May, Mamdani appointed New York City's new sheriff, a guy named Edwin Raymond. Raymond is a vocal critic of NYPD. It's a recipe for success. He is known for accusing it of systemic racism, particularly through arrest and summons quotas that he says disproportionately target Black and Latino communities. He has described modern policing as linked to historical slave patrols and has pushed for reforms. Yeah, because let's put a guy in charge of the police who hates the police. That's a really good idea. Raymond wrote a book in 2023 called An Inconvenient Cop, where he argued that pressure for low-level arrests and summons in minority neighborhoods constitutes systemic racism embedded in the system, not just individual bias. He claimed officers were pushed to meet quotas targeting Black and Hispanic people for minor offenses under the idea that it prevents bigger crimes. We have a video of him just showcasing his ideas, so let's listen to him. Live time. Meet New York City's new sheriff.
Much more complex than just simple individual racism. It's the racism that's interwoven in the system by the way of the enforcement quotas in Black and Hispanic communities.
But those cops are then being instructed and pressured to get the low-level arrest with the belief that it stops the more serious things from happening. There's absolutely no empirical evidence to support that. So many studies have been done. It's nonsense. There's no correlation between over-enforcement of innocuous infractions and a plummet in crime. But this is what a lot of police departments carry.
From slave patrol, some people feel this thing was never designed to work.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Educate some okay. Maybe 2 or 3 people who've never heard about a slave patrol.
So slave patrol were basically militias, if you will, during the time when slavery was legal, whose job was to catch runaway slaves. And after the Civil War, many of them literally just rolled over into police departments.
Wants to be victim survivor.
Very likely I would have probably said abolish. You know, every now and then you get a good argument as to why abolition is probably the better answer. There are many reform measures that have failed because, one, it's not incentivized. White cop, black guy, racist, you know, and racism was definitely involved. But what I saw was the embedded, lasting, you know, systemic racism in the form of pressure for arrest and summonses.
Critical race theory not only starts with that, but it explains where implicit bias comes from.
He wants to abolish the police. Who do you think that's going to hurt first? Women and children. And by the way, you actually can mass incarcerate your way out of crime. El Salvador just did it. So has Argentina. He says there's no data. I actually don't even know the point he was making. He was just using a ton of buzzwords. There's a ton of data that says you can mass incarcerate your way out of crime. Actually, all the data that's pulled says that. He's just stupid. In El Salvador, pre-Bukele, the homicide rates were the world's highest because of MS-13 and Barrio 18 gangs. Then he mass arrested everyone, and there was a 90% drop in homicides. The homicide rates fell to 1 to 2 per every 100,000, which is now safer than many US cities because he put everyone in jail. Do you know what he wasn't concerned about? Optics. He prioritized the safety of his citizens. It is not our fault that Black people commit more crimes. If you want to fix that, fix the culture instead of demonizing the police officers for doing their job. Per capita, Black people commit murder at a rate 6 to 8 times higher than everyone else in America. For robberies, it's 8 times higher. Black offenders overall commit 52 to 56% of known homicides in this country. Young Black men commit a disproportionate share of crime. They're 2 to 3% of the population, but commit 30 to 40% of US murders. That's just the data from the FBI. And honestly, the numbers are probably even worse than this because it's been watered down by leftists who don't want this information out there and don't want the truth out there. That's a cultural problem, not a police problem. The left has more empathy for the perpetrators than the victims. It's the same pattern that the UK has. That way of thought is what's happening in the UK. It's how the UK got to where they are today. Call the police arresting the people committing the crimes racist because they want to peddle the narrative that the perpetrators are actually the victims of systemic racism. Don't look at the truth. Don't analyze the data. Don't talk about the real problems. If you do that, you're racist. We want a strong police force that cracks down on crime regardless of skin color. We don't want one that's scared to arrest Black people out of fear of being called racist. So anyway, I guess New York City is getting everything they voted for. Good luck. Good luck. What else is happening in New York City? I'm so glad you asked. You might not be, but here we go. June 2nd, the New York City Council hosted their first ever Pride Ball. Why? This is City Hall. We've lost the plot. It's videos like this where I put my head down and I say, you know what? The Western world deserves everything that's coming. What a clown show. LGBT really should cut ties with this circus. That's not gay. That's mental illness. Why is it in our government? Do whatever with your freedom. Honestly, I'm glad you have it. But I don't particularly like that this is happening in government buildings. Feels a bit like a joke is being made. And why are they so loud and in our face about it? Just be normal, and then we wouldn't care. Stop pushing it on us. It brings me no joy to tell you that New York has just passed a bill that's awaiting the governor's signature that replaces the word mother with gestating parent and father with non-gestating parent. Paternity proceedings is now parentage cases, and putative father is now alleged parent. Okay, the goal of the bill is to modernize outdated language and create greater inclusivity for diverse families, including same-sex couples, adoptive parents. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to get through this without laughing. It's so absurd. And those using IVF and surrogacy. Paternity is seen as male-specific, while parentage is broader and focuses on parental relationship rather than biology alone. Great. Nothing says I celebrate women quite like the refusal to acknowledge we exist. A party for women. So we're going to erase our entire biological existence. What are we doing? People are so simple-minded. Men wearing a dress, getting fake boobs, wearing makeup is so insulting that they think that's what a woman is. This trans movement it's just men sexualizing us, thinking that all we are is a dress, a wig, makeup, boobs. It's a man saying, if I sexualize myself like a woman or what he perceives a woman to be, which the fact that it's makeup, hair, boobs, and dresses is sexual in its nature, then he thinks he's also a woman. It doesn't work like that. We are biologically different down to every cell in our body. Our hormones, our development, our reaction to things, our intuition, our decisions, how we process information, what we're drawn to, how we mother. Why are we even having this conversation in 2026? How are people so brainwashed? Men and women are meant to work in the most harmonious way. Our roles complement each other. Men have strengths that complement our weaknesses and vice versa. I saw this woman on TikTok react to a trans man pretending to be a woman, and she runs through the psychology, absolutely nails it. So we're going to play it because it's so good, her commentary.
If any other trans women have had a similar experience lately where, you know, for me today, I've been kind of down and I wanted to look good today.
Okay, so this is normal human desire framed to build sympathy and relatability.
So, you know, I put on a fairly low-cut dress. And
this is an important detail. The sexualized presentation is intentional, not incidental. Because he says, I put on a
sexualizing women
low-cut dress.
And just, you know, got cute and didn't really have much to do. I had a couple of, you know, doctor's appointments, but
always have a doctor.
Just wanted to feel good about myself. And I've gotten plenty of compliments.
So now he's setting up social validation first. So disagreement later will look irrational or hateful.
Mostly from younger women, which is, you know, cool. Nobody's like openly hitting on me or anything, but
this is a subtle contradiction. The outfit is framed as attractive and attention-grabbing, and criticism is treated as unacceptable.
At the same time, the, like, ew, whore kind of stare.
This is mind reading. He is assigning motives and internal thoughts to
I think he's actually sexualizing himself the way he sexualizes women.
That I've gotten from several older women. It's fascinating to me.
That's not what women do.
Because it, you know, if I thought I was like, oh, I'm getting clocked because I'm trans or something like that, you know, like I'm used to that. But these looks were very clearly not that.
So that's an interesting claim because there is no possible way for him to actually know that.
Also, maybe people are looking at you sideways because you're on the
find it
as a woman.
That it's either, oh, you're a man, Or like, why do you look like such a slut?
This is a false binary. He's reducing all possible reactions into two exaggerated, hostile categories.
Sexualizing women.
Like, and my wife
So
said
insulting.
something I thought that was really interesting. And she's like, women are going to have one of two reactions. They're either going to compliment you because they're impressed that you pulled it off, or they're going to be jealous.
No one's jealous.
So now this is classic narcissistic framing. If women approve, it equals admiration. If women disapprove, it equals jealousy. But either way, he's centering himself as desirable.
And get nasty with you because they wish they could pull it off.
So now this is projection, right? So many women are not jealous of an exaggerated femininity costume. We may simply dislike sexualized attention-seeking behavior in public.
Why does the second one have to be that way?
This is moral framing. Disagreement becomes cruelty instead of a normal human reaction.
Can't we just, slay queen and just leave it be?
So this is a demand for affirmation, not neutrality. Silence isn't enough. Validation is expected.
Like, you don't have to be nasty.
I also don't have to accept you.
I'm sure plenty of you will be in the comments, but...
So this is preemptive victim framing. Criticism is getting reframed as proof of oppression before it even happens.
But, that's every video just because I exist.
So now this is the biggest emotional manipulation line of the whole clip. It's shifting criticism from behavior, presentation, or rhetoric into people hate me merely for existing.
Incredible. Yep. Why are the Democrats hellbent on celebrating and normalizing this behavior? They want the erosion of family. They're selling a lie. It's not kind to tell mentally ill people that they can become something they can't become. There has never, in the history of ever, been a successful transition. No man has ever become a woman, and no woman has ever become a man. Transitioning is nothing more than mutilation followed by cosmetic surgery, but no one wants to talk about that. It's the truth. What they're really seeking is affirmation from other people. So this lunacy really only works if everyone goes along with their delusion and doesn't question them, which is a mental illness to think like that. And we shouldn't be rewarding that. Society should be embracing femininity and masculinity, not trying to replace us or think that we're interchangeable. We're not. It's crazy. Why are we talking about this in the year 2026? How do people lack the ability to think critically and think through problems on a deeper level? It's amazing. Anyway, we'll see what insanity comes next, and we'll dissect it together. So we'll see you next time.